I don't think the pushback to this is going to be a flash in the pan. I think this is going to continue, and if and when there are any developments, I sure as sugar will be doing a vlog on it. And Netflix has been indicted on Cuties. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and an update on the Cuties scandal, because there is a big update. Actually, you already know what the update was because of the intro of this vlog, but you'll recall a few weeks ago I did a vlog breaking down the Cuties Netflix controversy, discussing the applicable laws and whether or not Netflix had violated any of those applicable laws. If you haven't seen that vlog, I'm going to show some highlights now, so at the very least I don't have to summarize what the movie is about and what the applicable provisions of law are. Let's just operate on the basis that it is indeed disgusting, immoral, and reprehensible. The question is it illegal? This is the plot of the movie. Amy, an 11-year-old girl, joins a group of dancers named the Cuties at school and rapidly grows aware of her burgeoning femininity, upsetting her mother and her values in the process. Now, think what you will of Senator Ted Cruz, depending on which side of the aisle you find yourself on. One thing I think we can pretty much all agree on, he is relatively intelligent and he drafts relatively well, and in his letter he makes a very good point. Although the First Amendment provides vigorous protection for artistic expression, it does not allow individuals or for-profit corporations to produce or distribute CP. Accordingly, I urge the department to investigate the production of Cuties and Netflix's distribution of the film in order to determine whether Netflix, any of its executives, or anyone involved with the making of Cuties violated any federal laws against the production and distribution of CP. Now let's just have a look at some of the most relevant provisions of law. 18 U.S.C. 2251, sexual exploitation of children. 18 U.S.C. section 2260, production of sexually explicit depictions of a minor for importation into the United States. Well, it seems that certain lawmakers think that Netflix was a little too close to the line if they didn't go over it, and some prosecutors felt the same way, and so did a grand jury, because Netflix has been indicted.
Indicted? Indicted? Indicted, Jane? I'm gonna be indicted! Indicted! I'm gonna be indicted!
Indicted on the promotion of lewd visual material depicting child. Now, it's nice to read the headlines, run with it, share it on Twitter, but in reading the articles, I, as an attorney, had some questions as to the process, the implications, and I take for granted that if I have some questions, chances are other people out there have the same questions. How does a company get indicted? What is the indictment process? What is the grand jury process? And how did this all come to be in the first place?
Inquiring minds want to know.
I want to know.
Netflix indicted in Texas over lewd depiction of children in Cuties. A grand jury indictment for promotion of lewd visual material depicting a child was filed on September 23rd over the French film. Actually, just to open a parenthesis before we get into this article, there are a few universal constants on the internet. No one likes being wrong on the internet, and pretty much everyone likes being right on the internet. And it looks like my prediction that this was not a flash in the pan controversy is turning out to be accurate. Netflix is now facing a criminal charge in the ongoing backlash over Cuties, a French film centered around an 11-year-old girl living in Paris who wants to join a local, quote, free-spirited dance crew, end quote. A grand jury indictment for promotion of lewd visual material depicting a child was filed on September 23rd in Tyler County, Texas, according to Texas State Rep. Matt Schaefer,
A Republican.
NBC obtained a copy of the indictment Tuesday confirming Schaefer's tweet. I'm not quite certain I see the relevance of identifying the state representative as a Republican, but I'm sure he doesn't mind. We'll get to the indictment. Let's just finish off with the introductory paragraphs here. The indictment states that Netflix promoted, distributed, and exhibited material which, quote, depicts the lewd exhibition of the genitals or pubic area of a clothed or partially clothed child who was younger than 18 years of age, end quote, for the, quote, prurient interest of sex, end quote. It also states that the material had no serious, quote, literary, artistic, political, or scientific value, end quote. Hey Siri, what does prurient mean?
Purulent means consisting of containing or discharging pus.
That's really not the word I'm looking for. Hey Siri, what does prurient mean?
Prurient means
There you go.
having or encouraging an excessive interest in sexual matters, especially the sexual activity of others.
I think it's time we read the tweet and the indictment and then get into some law talk. Matt Schaefer, Netflix Inc. indicted by grand jury in Tyler County, Texas for promoting material in Cuties film which depicts lewd exhibition of pubic area of a clothed or partially clothed child who was younger than 18 years of age, which appeals to the prurient interest in sex. Matt Schaefer, liberty-loving conservative, Texas House District 6, Freedom.Texas style, followed by Dan Crenshaw. In the 1A District Court of Tyler County, State of Texas, the State of Texas versus Netflix Inc. Charge promotion of lewd visual material depicting child. PC 43.262. And just for your own personal knowledge, PC is the penal code, so that is referring to section 46.262 of the Texas Penal Code. Indictment. In the name and by authority of the state of Texas. The grand jury for Tyler County, Texas, duly selected, impaneled, sworn, charged, and organized as such at the January term AD 2020 of the 1A District Court for said county, upon their oaths present in and to said court at said term, that Netflix Inc., hereinafter styled defendant, on or about the 15th day of September AD 2020, and before the presentment of this indictment in the county and state aforesaid, did then and there knowingly promote visual material which depicts the lewd exhibition of the genitals or pubic area of a clothed or partially clothed child who was younger than 18 years of age at the time the visual material was created, which appeals to the prurient interest in sex and has no serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value, to wit, by issuing or selling or providing or delivering or distributing or disseminating or transmitting or publishing or exhausting or presenting or advertising the film titled Cuties, also known as Mignon, or offering or agreeing to issue, sell, provide, deliver, distribute, disseminate, transmit, publish, exhibit, present, or advertise said film, and the promotion of said film was authorized or recklessly tolerated by a high managerial agent of Netflix Inc., namely Wilmot Reed Hastings Jr. or Theodore Anthony Sarandos Jr., acting in behalf of Netflix Inc. and within the scope of the agent's office or employment at Netflix Inc., against the peace and dignity of the state. Now, I will be the first to admit that I probably don't have the highest tolerance levels when it comes to stress, but I would not want to be Hastings Jr. or Sarandos Jr. at this point in time. That being said, although they are named in the actual indictment, they are not a party to the indictment, so what does it all mean as relates to Netflix? How does a company get indicted? Now, the reason you should be asking yourself this question is because if a company gets indicted, you can logically assume that the company cannot go to jail, because although the company is a legal person, the company cannot itself go to jail or be imprisoned. And so unless there are individuals, executives within the company named in the actual indictment as parties to the indictment, you can pretty much only expect a fine, if anything, to be levied against Netflix if it is found guilty. That being said, being named in the indictment is one step too close to being an actual party to the indictment, at least as far as I'm concerned. And how does the indictment process even work to begin with? Well, we're going to do a little 101 of the indictment process in Texas. And when I say it's a 101, it is a 30,000-foot overview 101 of how the indictment process works in a grand jury in Texas. Grand juries in the United States are groups of citizens empowered by United States federal or state law to conduct legal proceedings, chiefly investigating potential criminal conduct and determining whether criminal charges should be brought. The grand jury originated under the law of England and spread through colonization to other jurisdictions as part of the common law. Today, however, the United States is one of only 2 jurisdictions, along with Liberia, that continues to use the grand jury to screen criminal indictments. Generally speaking, a grand jury may issue an indictment for a crime also known as a, quote, true bill, end quote, only if it finds, based upon the evidence that has been presented to it, that there is probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed by a criminal suspect. Unlike a petty jury, which resolves a particular civil or criminal case, a grand jury, typically having 12 to 23 members, serves as a group for a sustained period of time in all or many of the cases that come up in the jurisdiction, generally under the supervision of a federal U.S. attorney, a county district attorney, or a state attorney general, and here's evidence ex parte, i.e. without suspect or person of interest involvement in the proceedings. Now, this is actually the fascinating distinction between a grand jury and a petty jury, and if you think about the words themselves, grand jury, grand jury, and petty jury, petit jury, grand, petit, big, and small. A grand jury is literally bigger than a petty jury. A grand jury is bigger than a petit jury, and it consists of 12 or more members, and in order to decide whether or not to issue an indictment, it has to have the support of 7 or more members, a majority of the members of the grand jury, although this depends on state. A petty jury, on the other hand, the smaller jury, is held for trials, and in order to have a conviction, you have to have a unanimity among the members of the jury. And from what I understand, when you are summoned for jury duty, you actually don't know if you are going to end up on a grand jury or on a petty jury, or if you are going to get disqualified for whatever the reason.
We were talking about the time you beat jury duty.
Oh, yeah. The trick is to say you're prejudiced against all races.
Petty juries are small juries for a specific trial. Grand juries can sit for a certain period of time and hear any number of cases in determining whether or not to issue indictments. They are typically done ex parte, meaning in the absence of the defendant or the other party, and if it has sufficient support, if they believe that there is probable cause, they will issue the indictment or the true bill. Fascinating, but how did it come to be in the case of Netflix? Now, I don't know for certain, but I suspect that Representative Schaefer or another lawmaker probably probably went to a prosecutor's office and said, look, we think there are sufficient elements to charge Netflix with a crime under the Texas Penal Code. The prosecutor, after reading the law and looking at the evidence, decided that there was sufficient material to bring to a grand jury. A grand jury, after looking at the evidence being explained the law, decided that there was, in fact, probable cause to issue the indictment. Now, we can pretty much anticipate Netflix's defense, but let's just see what they have to say in their defense. Netflix apologized for its initial US advertisements of the film in a statement posted to Twitter on August 20, adding that the material was, quote, not okay, end quote, and updated the pictures and description of the film. The company defended the film itself, however, telling NBC's Today Show last month that Cuties is a social commentary against the sexualization of young children. Quote, it's an award-winning film and a powerful story about the pressure young girls face on social media and from society more generally growing up, and we'd encourage anyone who cares about these important issues to watch the movie, Netflix said last month. To which a great many people rightly pointed out that in order to show how bad something is, you don't need to reproduce that bad thing. And Babylon Bee probably had the funniest parody of all time as relates to this very point. New Netflix movie actually murders puppies to teach that murdering puppies is bad. Netflix original, Puppy Murder. Netflix is embroiled in controversy yet again with its new documentary, Puppy Murder, a show where the director kills puppies to teach you that murdering puppies is bad. I think you get the idea of the parody. If you want to read the full article, it'll be in the pinned comment
Below.
And as far as I am concerned, the whole social commentary excuse is just as bad an excuse as all of those prank videos where the people are actually committing the crimes, but just claiming that it's a prank, bro. Chill out. If you have to reproduce the very evil you are commenting on in order to say why that evil is so evil in the first place,
You're doing your commentary wrong.
other people were rightly pointing out that there was no need to use actual 11-year-old girls to criticize the hypersexualization of 11-year-old girls. You could have used 18-year-old or adults who look like kids for the purposes of doing it. I think most people would have suspended disbelief if they looked a little older than 11 years old. Interesting side note, under Canadian law, this probably still would not fly because under Canadian law, you cannot use an adult to depict underage sexual activity. What is the definition of CP under Canadian law? CP is defined in section 163.1 of the Criminal Code of Canada. In order for something to be considered CP, the law says that it must meet one of the following definitions: a photographic, film, video, or other visual representation that shows a person who is under 18 years old or a person who is depicted as being under 18 years old who is engaged in or is depicted as engaging in explicit sexual activity. So interestingly enough, if the content were determined to be CP, even under Canadian law, it would still be illegal even if the individuals were 18 years or over depicting the children. Parentheses of Canadian law closed. Now, for those of you who still haven't seen the film, and full disclosure, I still have not seen the film in its entirety. I have seen clips and I have read reviews. A full synopsis of the video. I don't want to describe the situations in too much detail, but the scenes are objectively
Borderline.
The 11-year-old girls are dancing in ways that is intended to simulate a certain act, and they are putting their hands on their groin or crotch regions in a manner that is intended to simulate a certain act. And there is, in fact, one scene of partial child nudity. The interesting thing in all of this is that they're not going after Netflix for having produced the movie, they're going after Netflix for having distributed the movie. It is a very interesting development in this situation, and like I predicted before, I don't think it ends here. There will be follow-up vlogs on this subject matter, and if you like my videos and you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm. If you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment. We've got PayPal, Subscribestar, Patreon, YouTube membership. Everybody who supports the channel gets sneak peeks of the vlogs in as much as I can provide them. We've got merch. Politics ruins everything, but more important than any of that, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you is doing well, and now you know your vlog. Peace out.